So today's question is from a guest that is wondering about how the pioneers met their personal needs, as she called them. The guest knew that people would have used outhouses before the days of indoor toilets and before those indoor toilets became more common, perhaps around the turn of the century. But this guest is wanting to know what the pioneers would have done in those times where they had bad weather outside, or perhaps they were too sick to go outside to go to the bathroom. So in response to this question, we thought this might be an opportunity for us to incorporate some outhouse jokes, but we decided not to since they usually stink. So for the pioneers' farm animals, this wasn't a problem. The pioneers' farm animals would have done whatever they needed to do, whenever they needed to do it, wherever they needed to do it. In pioneer times, such manure from cows, sheep, horses could have been used as fertilizer. You can imagine the confusion, of course, of the little boy who might be walking home from school when he finds a neighbor who's scooping cow manure onto a wagon. The neighbor explains to the boy that he has a strawberry patch at home and that he's going to take the manure and bring it home and spread it on his strawberries. Well, the little boy thinks a while and finally he says, you know, when I have strawberries, I usually put cream and sugar on them. So the pioneer ancestors were just like us in many ways. They didn't want to go outside in the rain, in the cold, or when they were ill to go to the bathroom. So in those cases, they would use something known as a chamber pot. The chamber pot would have gone by other names, depending on where you lived and when you lived. At times it was also known as the thunder mug. It was also known by the name of Texas teacup. One of our guests from Australia told me that at his home it was called a gazunder because it goes under the bed. Now, many chamber pots were very basic, metal bowls or buckets, and these chamber pots would have been filled up partway with water. But other chamber pots were part of a much nicer matching set, as you can see in this 1897 Sears catalog ad, which featured several items including a chamber pot. These nicer ceramic sets in some cases also included something known as a slop jar or a slop pail. This would have contained some of the wastewater that came from when you were washing your face, washing your hands, perhaps brushing your teeth, the kind of water that today we would run down the drain. This water would be kept in a slop jar and then, when it was full, brought outside, perhaps used to water the garden. Of course, the contents of the chamber pot would be brought outside and emptied into the family's outhouse. Which brings up a question, speaking of outhouses. In the children's book, why do you think Tigger would look down the hole of an outhouse? Probably he was looking for poo. Just like today, the pioneers that settled in Texas would have had some problems with their regularity. Perhaps they couldn't go to the bathroom when they wanted to. And so there were home remedies that were used to help make them more regular. Some of those home remedies are still used today. On that note, why do you think the young pioneer man would have had to go out with a prune? Probably because he couldn't get a date. Chamber pots were also used in other places. They would have been used in covered wagons. They would have been brought along on stagecoaches. The covered chamber pots could have even been incorporated and used in the military. The officers' tents might have had a chamber pot. There is one word from the Texas Monthly magazine that at the Sam Houston Museum there is what could be the state's most historic chamber pot. It's claimed that it is a chamber pot of Santa Anna. It was confiscated from Santa Anna during his capture at San Jacinto. And so there are those that claim that this totally silver pot was used as Santa Anna's chamber pot. Others claim it was his soup bowl. You probably wouldn't want to get the two of those mixed up. So, we're running out of time, but if you feel, because of your own personal needs, you need to spend much more time on the chamber pot, we have an extra thing you might look up on this Smithsonian website, smithsonian.com. A fascinating story about some 17th century bathroom humor. There is a painting, and it was actually part of the British royal family and often on display. And this painting, in the background, you see a young man doing his duty alongside a busy street. The title of this work, not kidding, the title of this work is A Village Fair with a Church Behind. This piece of artwork, when it was being restored, they discovered that a bush had been painted onto this painting and was not part of the original. And when they removed this bush, according to the Smithsonian website, as they removed this bush, it revealed the image of the squatting peasant. So with that, we thank you for your questions, and we leave you with one thought. If you would go into an outhouse right after a clown was in there, would it smell funny?